Now close your eyes for a moment and just listen, because tonight, I believe something is about to change inside you. You are lying there, your body is tired, but your mind refuses to rest. Thoughts keep coming, one after another, like waves that never stop. You try to silence them, but the more you try, the louder they become. Worries about tomorrow, regrets from today, fears you cannot even explain. They all gather in the quietness of the night, and suddenly, what should have been a place of rest becomes a battlefield inside your mind. But listen carefully. You were never created to carry all of this alone. The heaviness you feel right now, the pressure in your chest, the racing thoughts in your heads, these are not meant to stay with you. There is a place of peace available to you, even in this very moment, even before you fall asleep. And that place is not found by trying harder, not by forcing your mind to be quiet, but by surrendering everything in prayer. Right now, you don't need perfect words. You don't need long sentences. You don't need to impress anyone. All you need is a willing heart. Because when you begin to pray, something powerful happens. Your burden begins to shift. What was heavy starts to feel lighter. What was chaotic starts to slow down. And what felt impossible begins to rest in the hands of someone greater than you. Tonight, instead of fighting your thoughts, you will release them. Instead of holding on to your stress, you will let it go. You will speak softly, even if it is just a whisper, and say, I cannot carry this anymore. And as you do that, peace will begin to enter. Not the kind of peace the world gives, but a deep, quiet peace that settles your heart and calms your mind. You may not see immediate changes around you, but something will change within you. Your breathing will slow. Your thoughts will soften. Your heart will feel lighter. And as you continue to pray, you will realize that you are no longer alone in this night. There is a presence with you, surrounding you, holding you, calming every fear inside you. So tonight, do not fear the silence. Do not fear the darkness. This is your moment to release everything you have been carrying. This is your moment to rest, not just your body, but your soul. And as you pray, believe this with all your heart. While you sleep, everything you surrendered is being taken care of. At night, when everything around you becomes quiet, something deeper begins to speak within you. During the day, you are surrounded by noise, people talking, tasks demanding attention, responsibilities pulling you in different directions. But when the night comes, all of that fades away. And in that silence, the true condition of your heart and mind begins to rise to the surface. You may not notice it during the day, but at night you cannot escape it. The thoughts you pushed aside return. The emotions you ignored begin to demand attention. The burdens you carried quietly now feel heavier than ever before. You lie down expecting rest, but instead of peace, your mind becomes active. It starts replaying conversations, reminding you of things you should have said or things you wish you had done differently. Regret begins to whisper. Then worry follows closely behind, bringing thoughts about tomorrow, uncertainties, responsibilities, fears of what might go wrong. Your mind tries to solve everything at once, as if staying awake will somehow give you control over situations that are beyond your power. And the more you think, the more restless you become. This restlessness is not just about thoughts. It is connected to something deeper inside you. It is the weight of unspoken stress, hidden fears, silent disappointments, and unresolved emotions. Throughout the day, you learn how to function despite these things. You smile, you work, you talk, you carry on. But at night, when there is nothing left to distract you, those hidden burdens begin to reveal themselves. It is like your soul is finally given a voice, and it begins to express everything you have been holding inside. You may find yourself asking, why is my mind like this? Why can't I just switch it off and sleep? But the truth is, your mind is not the problem. Your mind is responding to what your heart is carrying. Every worry, every fear, Every pressure you feel has been stored within you, and at night it rises because it is looking for release. It is looking for peace. It is looking for rest, not just for your body, but for your inner being. Sometimes the restlessness comes from the need to be in control. You want to make sure everything is okay. You want to fix problems before they happen. You want to protect yourself from pain or failure. But this desire to control everything becomes exhausting. It creates a cycle where your mind keeps working, searching for answers, trying to predict outcomes, trying to prepare for every possibility. And in doing so, it forgets how to rest. It forgets how to trust. It forgets that not everything depends on you. At other times, the burden comes from emotional wounds that have not fully healed. Words that hurt you, situations that disappointed you, moments that broke your expectations. These things do not simply disappear. They stay within you, quietly shaping your thoughts and feelings. And at night, when your defenses are down, they begin to surface. Not to harm you, but because they are seeking release. They are waiting for a moment when you will finally acknowledge them and let them go. There is also a kind of loneliness that appears at night. Even if you are surrounded by people during the day, the night can make you feel like you are facing everything alone. Your thoughts become your only companion, and sometimes they are not kind. They remind you of your fears, your insecurities, your weaknesses. They make you feel small, uncertain, and overwhelmed. And in those moments, sleep feels distant, almost impossible. But what you are experiencing is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign that something within you is asking for attention, for care, for peace. Your restless mind is not your enemy. It is a signal. It is showing you that you have been carrying more than you were meant to carry. It is revealing the areas of your life where you need to release control, where you need to find comfort, where you need to experience true peace. The problem is that many people try to fight this restlessness in the wrong way. They try to force themselves to sleep. They try to silence their thoughts by distraction or exhaustion. But this only treats the surface, not the root. The deeper need remains unaddressed, and the cycle continues night after night. Because what your heart truly needs is not suppression, but surrender. Not distraction, but peace. Not control, but trust. When you begin to understand this, something shifts within you. You realize that the night is not your enemy. It is an opportunity. An opportunity to face what you have been carrying, to release what has been weighing you down, and to enter into a place of rest that goes beyond physical sleep. It becomes a moment where you can let go of everything you tried to hold together during the day. And slowly, as you become aware of this, your perspective changes. Instead of fearing the silence, you begin to embrace it. Instead of running from your thoughts, you begin to understand them. Instead of being overwhelmed by your burdens, you start to recognize that you do not have to carry them alone. And in that realization, something inside you begins to soften. The tension starts to loosen. The weight begins to lift. Your breathing becomes calmer, your heart becomes quieter, and your mind begins to slow down as you move closer to a place of true rest and peace. When the night becomes quiet, something unusual begins to happen inside the human mind. During the day, your attention is constantly occupied. You are speaking, working, moving, solving problems, and reacting to the world around you. There is always something pulling your focus outward. Even when you feel stress or anxiety, it is often diluted by activity. You do not fully feel its weight because your mind is busy navigating tasks, conversations, and responsibilities. But when night comes, everything changes. The external noise fades, the responsibilities pause, and suddenly you are left alone with your thoughts. This silence is not empty. It is powerful. It creates space, and in that space, whatever has been hidden or suppressed begins to grow louder. The mind, which seemed manageable during the day, now becomes intense and overwhelming. Thoughts that were once quiet now echo. Emotions that were pushed aside now return with strength. It is not that anxiety suddenly appears at night. It was always there, but now it finally has the space to be heard. Silence removes distraction, and without distraction, your inner world becomes clearer. Every worry, every fear, every unresolved situation begins to surface. The mind starts replaying scenarios, imagining outcomes, questioning decisions. A small concern can suddenly feel very big. A simple thought can turn into a long chain of overthinking. This is because silence amplifies what is already inside you. It acts like a magnifying glass, making your internal experiences more visible and more intense. There is also something about the night that makes the mind more vulnerable. Darkness naturally slows down the body, but it does not always slow down the mind. In fact, for many people, the mind becomes more active because it no longer has to compete with external input. It begins to wander freely, moving from one thought to another without control, and often it does not choose positive paths. It leans toward uncertainty, fear, and what is unresolved. This is why anxiety can feel stronger at night than during the day. Another reason silence makes anxiety louder is because there is no immediate solution available. During the day, if you face a problem, you can act. You can call someone, send a message, fix something, or take a step forward. But at night, most actions are paused. You are left with thoughts, but no immediate way to resolve them. This creates a feeling of helplessness. The mind keeps searching for answers, but it cannot find closure. And so it keeps repeating the same thoughts again and again, creating a cycle that feels impossible to break. The absence of noise also removes emotional protection. During the day, even simple interactions with others can provide comfort and reassurance. A conversation, a smile, or even being in the presence of others can help regulate your emotions. But at night, especially when you are alone, that support is no longer present in the same way. You may begin to feel isolated even if you are not truly alone. This sense of isolation can make your thoughts feel heavier and more personal, as if you are carrying everything by yourself. Your mind also becomes more reflective at night. It looks backward and forward at the same time. It revisits the past, analyzing mistakes, regrets, or missed opportunities. Then it jumps into the future, imagining risks, uncertainties, and fears. This constant shifting between past and future creates tension because both are outside your control. The present moment, which is the only place where peace can exist, is often forgotten. And without grounding in the present, the mind continues to drift into places that increase anxiety. There is also a biological aspect to this experience. As your body prepares for rest, your environment becomes still, your senses become more focused, and your awareness turns inward. This inward focus can be helpful when it is calm, but when there is unresolved stress, it becomes overwhelming. The mind becomes more sensitive, more reactive, and more aware of every thought and feeling. Even small worries can feel intense, because there is nothing to balance them out. Many people try to escape this silence because of how it makes them feel. They turn to distractions, scrolling through their phones, watching videos, or keeping background noise just to avoid being alone with their thoughts. While this may provide temporary relief, it does not address the root of the problem. The anxiety remains, waiting for another quiet moment to return even stronger. Because the issue is not the silence itself, but what the silence reveals. When you begin to understand this, your perspective can shift. Instead of seeing silence as something to fear, you can begin to see it as something meaningful. It is showing you what needs attention. It is revealing where your mind is unsettled and where your heart is burdened. It is not trying to harm you, it is trying to bring awareness. But without the right response, that awareness turns into anxiety instead of peace. The key is not to run from the silence, but to meet it with something stronger. When silence makes anxiety louder, it is an invitation to respond with calmness, with trust, and with surrender. It is a moment where you can choose not to engage with every thought, not to believe every fear, and not to carry every burden. Instead, you can acknowledge what you feel and gently release it. As you become more aware of this pattern, you will notice something important. The silence itself is not your enemy. It is neutral. It simply reflects what is inside you. And when you begin to respond differently, when you stop resisting, stop fighting, and start allowing yourself to let go, something changes. The same silence that once amplified anxiety can begin to create space for peace. The same quiet that once felt heavy can become calming. And slowly, your mind learns that it does not have to fill every silent moment with worry, but can rest, breathe, and become still within that quietness. There is something deep within every human being that desires control. It is not always visible, but it shows itself in subtle ways. Through constant thinking, planning, worrying, and trying to predict what will happen next. You want to feel safe, you want to feel prepared, and you want to make sure that nothing goes wrong. So your mind begins to take responsibility for everything. It tries to manage outcomes, fix problems before they happen, and protect you from uncertainty. At first, this may seem like strength. It feels like you are being responsible, careful, and aware. But over time, this desire for control becomes heavy. It becomes exhausting. And at night, when everything slows down, you begin to feel the full weight of it. You lie down, but your mind refuses to rest. It keeps working, searching, analyzing, trying to hold everything together. It tells you that if you stop thinking, something might go wrong. It convinces you that you must stay alert, that you must solve everything before you sleep. And so you continue thinking, not because you want to, but because you feel like you have to. This is the illusion of control. It makes you believe that your constant thinking is necessary, that your worry is useful, and that your effort alone can shape every outcome in your life. But if you look closely, you will begin to notice something. Despite all your thinking, despite all your worrying, many things in life remain beyond your control. You cannot control every situation. You cannot predict every outcome. You cannot prevent every difficulty. And yet your mind keeps trying. It keeps holding on, as if letting go would mean losing everything. This is where the struggle begins. Because the more you try to control what is uncontrollable, the more restless you become. This illusion creates a cycle. You feel anxious, so you try to think more to fix the anxiety. But the more you think, the more overwhelmed you feel, and the more overwhelmed you feel, the more you try to gain control again. It becomes a loop that drains your energy and steals your peace. And at night, when there are no distractions left, this cycle becomes even more intense. Your mind feels trapped in its own effort, unable to stop, unable to rest. What makes this even more difficult is that control feels safe. It feels like protection. Letting go, on the other hand, feels risky. It feels like stepping into the unknown. You may wonder, if I stop thinking about this, what will happen? If I stop worrying, who will take care of it? These questions come from a place of fear, but they also reveal something important. They show that deep inside, there is a lack of trust. Not just in situations, but in something greater than yourself. Surrender is often misunderstood. Many people think surrender means giving up, losing, or becoming weak. But true surrender is not about defeat. It is about release. It is about recognizing your limits and choosing not to carry what was never meant for you. It is about shifting from striving to trusting. And this shift does not happen through force. It happens through a quiet decision within your heart. When you begin to surrender, something changes. You stop trying to control every outcome. You stop demanding answers for everything. You begin to accept that some things are not in your hands, and instead of holding on tightly, you start to release. This does not mean you stop caring. It does not mean you become passive. It simply means you are no longer carrying the burden alone. In prayer, this surrender becomes real. It is not just a concept, it becomes an experience. You begin to speak honestly, not with perfect words, but with a genuine heart. You say what you feel. You acknowledge your fears, your worries, your uncertainties. And as you do that, something begins to shift inside you. The weight you were carrying starts to move. The pressure begins to ease. Not because your problems have disappeared, but because you are no longer trying to control them by yourself. There is a deep peace that comes when you let go. It is different from the temporary relief that comes from distraction. It is not based on circumstances. It comes from knowing that you do not have to hold everything together. It comes from trusting that there is something greater at work, even when you cannot see it. And in that trust, your mind begins to quiet down. At night, this becomes especially powerful. Instead of lying in bed trying to solve everything, you begin to release everything. Instead of replaying thoughts, you begin to let them pass. Instead of holding on to your worries, you place them somewhere beyond yourself. And as you do this, your body begins to respond. Your breathing slows, your muscles relax, your heart becomes lighter. Your mind, which once felt crowded and noisy, begins to find space and calmness. You start to realize that control was never giving you peace. It was only giving you the illusion of security. And surrender, which once felt difficult, begins to feel freeing. It becomes a doorway to rest, not just physical rest, but a deeper kind of rest that reaches your inner being. This does not happen all at once. It is a process. Your mind may try to return to control. Old patterns may try to come back. But each time you choose to surrender, each time you choose to release, instead of hold on, you are strengthening something new within you. You are teaching your mind that it is safe to let go. You are teaching your heart that it does not have to carry everything alone. And slowly, night after night, something beautiful begins to happen. A place that once felt like a battlefield becomes a place of peace. The silence that once amplified anxiety begins to carry calmness. And the mind that once fought for control begins to rest in something deeper, something stronger, something that does not depend on your effort, but flows from your willingness to let go and trust beyond what you can see. There comes a moment, especially at night, when you realize that holding on is no longer helping you. You have been carrying thoughts all day, stress from responsibilities, fear of what might happen, and a constant stream of overthinking that never seems to stop. At first, it feels like holding on is necessary. You believe that if you keep thinking, keep analyzing, keep worrying, you are somehow staying in control. But slowly, you begin to notice that this holding on is not giving you peace. It is only making you more tired, more restless, and more overwhelmed. Letting go is not something that happens naturally. In fact, it feels uncomfortable at first. Your mind resists it. It tells you to keep thinking, to keep replaying situations, to keep searching for answers. It convinces you that if you let go, you might miss something important, or you might lose control of a situation that needs your attention. But the truth is, most of the thoughts you are holding on to are not helping you. They are repeating themselves without bringing any solution. They are creating noise, not clarity. They are increasing your anxiety, not reducing it. Fear often hides behind these thoughts. It appears in different forms: fear of failure, fear of the unknown, fear of losing something, fear of not being enough. These fears attach themselves to your mind, and they keep you alert even when your body is asking for rest. They make you feel like you must stay awake, like you must keep thinking until you find certainty. But certainty does not come through endless thinking. It comes through peace, and peace only comes when you allow yourself to release what you cannot control. Stress works in a similar way. It builds up gradually throughout the day. Every responsibility, every expectation, every pressure adds a little more weight. You may not notice it at first because you are busy handling everything. But by the time night comes, that accumulated stress begins to show itself. Your body feels tired, but your mind feels full. It is carrying everything you experienced, everything you need to do, and everything you are worried about. And unless you intentionally let go of that stress, it will continue to sit within you, making it difficult to rest. Overthinking is what connects all of this together. It takes fear and makes it louder. It takes stress and makes it heavier. It takes small concerns and turns them into big problems. It keeps your mind active when it should be at rest. And the more you engage with overthinking, the stronger it becomes. It creates a habit where your mind automatically goes into analysis mode, even when there is nothing new to solve. Letting go does not mean ignoring your problems. It does not mean pretending that everything is fine. It means recognizing that you have reached a point where thinking more is no longer helping. It means choosing to release the need to figure everything out in this moment. It means allowing yourself to step back from the constant activity of your mind and give yourself permission to rest. This is where something powerful begins to happen. When you consciously decide to let go, even if it is just for a moment, you create space within yourself. That space allows your mind to slow down. It allows your emotions to settle. It allows your body to relax. You begin to feel a shift, not because your situation has changed, but because your relationship with your thoughts has changed. At night, this act of letting go becomes even more important. The night is not a time for solving everything. It is a time for releasing everything. It is a time to acknowledge what you have carried throughout the day and gently place it aside. You can say to yourself, "I have done what I could today." The rest does not need to be carried into this moment. And as simple as that sounds, it has a deep impact on your mind and your body. There is also a quiet strength in letting go. It requires courage to release what feels important. It requires trust to step away from constant thinking. It requires awareness to recognize when your mind is holding on unnecessarily. But once you begin to practice this, you will notice that letting go is not weakness. It is freedom. It is the ability to move from tension to calmness, from pressure to peace. You may notice that your breathing changes when you let go. It becomes slower and deeper. Your muscles begin to relax. The tightness in your chest starts to ease. Your thoughts become less intense. They may still come, but they no longer feel overwhelming. They pass more gently, without pulling you into long chains of overthinking. This process does not have to be complicated. It can begin with a simple awareness. Notice what you are holding on to. Notice the thoughts that keep repeating. Notice the fears that keep returning. And instead of engaging with them, gently release them. You do not need to fight them. You do not need to push them away forcefully. You simply allow them to pass, like clouds moving across the sky. Over time, this becomes easier. Your mind learns that it does not have to hold on to everything. It learns that it is safe to let go. It learns that peace is not found in constant thinking, but in the absence of unnecessary thoughts. And as this understanding grows, your nights begin to change. What once felt like a struggle becomes a moment of calm. What once felt heavy becomes lighter. And as you continue this practice, you begin to experience something deeper than just relaxation. It touches your heart, your emotions, and your entire being. You realize that you were never meant to carry so much for so long. You realize that there is a different way to live, a way that is not driven by fear, stress, and overthinking, but guided by calmness, trust, and the ability to let go of everything that is weighing you down in this very moment. There is a deep longing within every human heart for peace, especially at the end of the day. After everything you have faced, everything you have carried, and everything you have endured, your heart desires a place where it can finally rest. Not just physical rest, but a deeper kind of rest. A quietness that reaches beyond your thoughts and touches something within you. This is what it means to invite peace into your heart before sleep. It is not something that happens automatically. It is something you allow, something you welcome, something you intentionally receive. Throughout the day, your heart absorbs many things. Words spoken to you, situations you faced, pressures you felt, expectations you tried to meet. All of these leave an imprint. Even if you appear strong on the outside, your inner world is constantly processing what you experience. By the time night comes, your heart is full. It carries emotions that have not been released, thoughts that have not been settled, and tensions that have not been resolved. If you go to sleep without addressing this, your body may rest, but your heart remains unsettled. Inviting peace begins with awareness. You begin to recognize what you are carrying. You notice the tension within you, the heaviness in your chest, the uneasiness in your thoughts. Instead of ignoring it or trying to push it away, you gently acknowledge it. You allow yourself to feel what is there without judgment. This awareness is important because peace cannot enter a place that is closed or unaware. It enters where there is openness, where there is honesty, where there is a willingness to receive something different. As you become aware, you begin to shift your focus. Instead of holding on to everything that has happened, you begin to create space within yourself. You slow down your thoughts. You take a deep breath. You allow your mind to move away from the noise of the day and toward a place of stillness. This is not about forcing your mind to be quiet. It is about gently guiding it away from chaos and into calmness. And as you do this, your heart begins to soften. There is a quiet power in intentionally inviting peace. It is like opening a door within yourself. You are no longer trying to fix everything. You are no longer trying to control every outcome. Instead, you are making a decision to rest. You are saying, this moment is not for solving. This moment is for receiving peace. And that simple shift begins to change everything. Peace does not come from external circumstances. It does not depend on whether everything in your life is perfect. It comes from within. It is a state where your heart is no longer resisting, no longer holding tightly, no longer overwhelmed by what it cannot control. It is a calm assurance that even if things are uncertain, you are safe in this moment. And when you invite this kind of peace, you begin to experience a quiet stability that is not easily shaken. One of the most powerful ways to invite peace is through stillness and gentle reflection. You allow yourself to slow down enough to connect with your inner being. You may close your eyes, take a deep breath, and simply become present. In that presence, you begin to release the noise. Thoughts may still come, but you do not chase them. You let them pass. You return your focus to calmness, to stillness, to a quiet awareness that you are not alone in this moment. As peace begins to enter, you will notice subtle changes. Your breathing becomes slower and deeper. The tightness in your body begins to ease. Your mind, which once felt crowded, starts to feel lighter. The constant pressure to think, to analyze, to solve begins to fade. You may still have concerns, but they no longer feel overwhelming. They lose their intensity because your heart is no longer holding them tightly. There is also a sense of comfort that comes with peace. It feels like being gently held, like being surrounded by something that understands you completely. It brings a quiet reassurance that you do not have to carry everything alone. And in that reassurance, your heart begins to rest. It stops striving. It stops resisting. It simply receives. I think peace is not about perfection. It does not require you to have everything figured out. It only requires willingness. A willingness to pause, to become aware, to release what you have been holding, and to open your heart to something greater than your thoughts. It is a gentle process, not a forceful one. The more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. Night after night, as you begin to invite peace into your heart, something begins to change. What once felt like a time of restlessness becomes a time of calm. What once felt heavy becomes lighter. Your heart begins to trust this process. It begins to recognize that peace is available, not somewhere far away, but right here, within you, waiting to be welcomed. And as this becomes part of your routine, sleep itself begins to change. It is no longer something you struggle to reach. It becomes a natural extension of the peace you have already invited. Your body follows your heart, your mind follows your calmness, and you begin to enter rest not from exhaustion, but from a place of quiet, steady peace that gently carries you into the night. As your heart continues to settle into a deeper sense of calm and stillness, there is something deeply comforting in knowing that not everything depends on you. All day long you carry responsibilities, make decisions, handle pressures, and try your best to keep everything in order. You think, you plan, you act, and you do everything within your ability to manage your life. But when night comes, a different kind of realization begins to surface. You begin to feel the limits of your own strength. You realize that no matter how much you try, there are things you cannot control, situations you cannot fix immediately, and outcomes you cannot guarantee. And it is in this moment that a gentle but powerful truth can begin to change everything within you. Trusting that something greater is working while you rest is not an easy idea at first. Your mind is trained to believe that progress only happens when you are active, when you are thinking, when you are doing something. It tells you that if you stop, everything might fall apart. It convinces you that rest is unproductive and that letting go is risky. But if you look closely, you will begin to see that this belief is not entirely true. There are many things in life that continue to move forward even when you are not actively involved. Time moves, situations evolve. Solutions begin to form in ways you cannot always see or predict. At night, when your body lies down, your mind often wants to continue working. It replays the day, anticipates tomorrow, and tries to solve problems that do not have immediate answers. But what if, instead of continuing this effort, you allowed yourself to step back? What if you trusted that not everything needs to be handled in this moment? What if you believed that while you rest, something beyond your effort is still at work? This kind of trust brings a different kind of peace. It releases the pressure to constantly be in control. It allows you to breathe more freely, knowing that you are not alone in carrying the weight of your life. You begin to understand that rest is not a weakness. It is not an interruption to progress. It is part of the process. It is a moment where your body recovers, your mind resets, and your inner being is renewed. When you truly begin to trust, your perspective shifts. You no longer see sleep as just a physical need. You begin to see it as a moment of surrender, a moment where you release everything you cannot carry any further. You acknowledge that you have done what you could for the day, and you allow yourself to step into rest without guilt, without fear, and without the need to keep holding on. There is a quiet strength in this kind of trust. It does not come from having all the answers. It comes from accepting that you do not need all the answers right now. It comes from knowing that some things are unfolding in ways you cannot see, and that your constant effort is not required for everything to move forward. This understanding begins to calm your mind. It reduces the urgency of your thoughts. It softens the intensity of your worries. You may notice that when you hold on tightly, your body becomes tense. Your breathing becomes shallow. Your mind becomes crowded. But when you trust and release, the opposite begins to happen. Your shoulders relax. Your breathing deepens. Your thoughts slow down. It is as if your entire being responds to this shift from control to trust. You begin to feel lighter, not because your problems have disappeared, but because you are no longer carrying them alone. This trust also changes how you approach uncertainty. Instead of fearing it, you begin to accept it. You understand that not knowing everything is a natural part of life. You realize that trying to control every outcome only creates more stress. And slowly, you begin to let go of the need to have everything figured out before you can rest. As you lie down at night, this trust becomes something you can practice. You can quietly say within yourself that whatever you cannot resolve now does not need to be resolved in this moment. You can allow your mind to step back from constant thinking. You can choose to believe that while you are resting, things are still moving, still aligning, still being taken care of in ways beyond your understanding. This does not mean you stop caring about your life. It does not mean you become passive or indifferent. It simply means you recognize that your role has limits, and beyond those limits, there is something greater that continues the work. And in that recognition, you find relief. Over time, this practice of trusting while you rest begins to transform your nights. What once felt like a time of anxiety becomes a time of calm. What once felt like a struggle becomes a gentle transition into peace. Your mind learns that it does not need to stay active to ensure safety. Your heart learns that it is safe to let go. And your body begins to rest more deeply, more naturally. You start to wake up differently as well. There is less heaviness, less mental fatigue, and more clarity. Because when you allow yourself to truly rest, you are not just pausing your body, you are renewing your entire being. And this renewal carries into the next day, giving you the strength and clarity to face whatever comes. This journey of trust is not something that happens instantly. It grows slowly. With each night you choose to release instead of hold on. With each moment you choose to believe instead of fear. But as it grows, it becomes a foundation within you, a quiet confidence that you do not have to carry everything alone, that you are supported even in your stillness, and that even as you sleep, life continues to move forward in ways that are beyond your control, yet still deeply aligned with your peace and rest. There is a common misunderstanding that prayer must be complex, long, or filled with perfect words in order to be meaningful. Many people hesitate to pray because they feel they do not know what to say, or they believe their words are not good enough. They think prayer requires a certain level of knowledge, a certain structure, or a certain way of speaking. But the truth is far simpler and far more powerful than that. The real power of prayer is not found in how eloquent your words are, but in how sincere your heart is. When you come to the end of your day, especially when your mind is restless and your heart feels heavy, you are not in a place where you can form perfect sentences. Your thoughts are scattered, your emotions are mixed, and sometimes you do not even fully understand what you are feeling. And in that moment, trying to create a perfect prayer can feel like another burden. It can make you feel like you are not doing it right, which only adds to your stress. But prayer was never meant to be another task to perform. It was meant to be a place of connection, a place where you can come exactly as you are. The beauty of simple, sincere prayer is that it removes all pressure. You do not have to impress anyone. You do not have to follow a script. You do not have to find the right words. You can speak honestly, even if your words are few, even if they are broken, even if they are just a whisper. What matters is that they come from your heart, because sincerity carries a depth that words alone cannot express. Sometimes a simple sentence like, "I am tired," carries more meaning than a long, structured prayer. Sometimes saying, "I need help," is more powerful than trying to explain everything in detail. And sometimes even silence can be a form of prayer, when your heart is open and willing, even if your mind does not know what to say. This simplicity is not weakness, it is honesty. And honesty creates a space where real peace can begin to enter. There is also something deeply freeing about letting go of the need to perform in prayer. When you stop trying to say the right things, you begin to say the real things. You begin to express what is truly inside you. Your fears, your worries, your confusion, your hopes. And in that expression, you begin to release what you have been carrying. You are no longer holding everything inside. You are allowing it to come out, to be acknowledged, to be placed somewhere beyond yourself. At night, this becomes especially important. Your mind is already full. Your heart is already heavy. The last thing you need is another complicated process. What you need is simplicity. You need something that brings calm, not something that adds pressure. And simple, sincere prayer does exactly that. It creates a gentle space where you can breathe, where you can slow down, where you can begin to feel a sense of relief. You may notice that when you pray simply and honestly, your mind begins to quiet down. This is because you are no longer trying to control everything. You are no longer trying to solve every problem. You are simply expressing and releasing. And in that release, your thoughts lose their intensity. They no longer need to fight for attention because they have been acknowledged. There is also a sense of closeness that comes with sincere prayer. It does not feel distant or formal. It feels personal. It feels like a conversation where you are heard, where you are understood, even without perfect words. This sense of being heard brings comfort. It brings reassurance. It reminds you that you are not alone in what you are experiencing. Over time, this practice begins to change how you approach prayer. It becomes something natural, something you can turn to at any moment without hesitation. You no longer feel the need to wait for the right time or the right words. You simply come as you are. And because of that, prayer becomes a source of peace, not pressure. You also begin to notice that simplicity allows consistency. When prayer feels complicated, it is easy to avoid. But when it is simple, it becomes something you can do every night, even on your most difficult days. It becomes part of your routine. A gentle transition from the busyness of the day to the calmness of rest. And as this habit grows, its impact becomes deeper. Your heart becomes lighter because you are not holding everything inside. Your mind becomes calmer because you are not trying to manage everything alone. Your body begins to relax because the tension within you is being released. And slowly, night by night, you begin to experience a different kind of rest. Not just the absence of activity, but the presence of peace. This is the quiet power of simple, sincere prayer. It meets you where you are. It does not demand perfection. It does not require preparation. It simply invites you to be real, to be open, and to release what you have been carrying. And in that simplicity, something profound begins to happen within you. Your heart begins to trust. Your mind begins to settle. And your entire being begins to move from a place of pressure and complexity into a place of calm honesty and deep inner peace that gently surrounds you as you continue to rest in that quiet connection without the need for anything more than your sincere and open heart. At the end of each day, whether you realize it or not, you are carrying a collection of moments within you. Some are small, almost unnoticed, while others feel heavy and difficult to ignore. Conversations, decisions, pressures, expectations, disappointments, and even silent thoughts. All of these accumulate throughout the day. You may move from one task to another without stopping, believing you are managing everything well. But as the night comes and everything becomes still, the weight of these experiences begins to reveal itself. Releasing today's problems is not about denying what happened. It is not about pretending that everything is fine or that nothing matters. It is about recognizing that you have reached the end of this day, and there is nothing more you can do in this moment. It's about understanding that holding on to every detail, every worry, and every unresolved issue will not change anything tonight. Instead, it will only keep your mind active and your heart burdened. Many people carry their problems into the night without realizing it. They lie down, but their mind continues to replay everything. They revisit conversations, analyze situations, and imagine different outcomes. It feels like they are trying to close every open loop before they can rest. But the truth is, not every problem needs to be solved before sleep. Some things require time, some things require patience, and some things are simply not meant to be carried continuously without rest. When you begin to release today's problems, you are making a conscious decision. You are saying to yourself, this day is complete. Not because everything is perfect, but because you have done what you could within the time and strength you had. You acknowledge your efforts, you accept your limitations, and you give yourself permission to stop carrying what does not belong to this moment anymore. This act of releasing is deeply connected to trust. It requires you to believe that just because you are not actively thinking about something does not mean it is being neglected. It requires you to accept that rest is necessary and that you are allowed to pause without fear. When you hold on to problems, it often comes from a belief that constant thinking will lead to control or resolution. But in reality, it only leads to exhaustion. There is a gentle process in releasing. It begins with awareness. You notice what is on your mind. You identify the thoughts that keep returning, the concerns that feel unresolved, the emotions that still carry weight. Instead of pushing them away or getting lost in them, you acknowledge them. You say, this is what I carried today. And in that acknowledgement, you create a moment of clarity. From there, you begin to let go, not forcefully, but intentionally. You may imagine placing your worries somewhere outside of yourself. You may quietly express that you are no longer holding on to them for now. You may simply take a deep breath and allow your mind to step back from them. This act may feel small, but it has a powerful effect. It signals to your mind that it is safe to rest. One of the reasons people struggle to release their problems is because they fear forgetting something important. They worry that if they stop thinking about it, they might miss a solution or fail to act when needed. But rest does not erase responsibility. It prepares you to handle it better. When your mind is calm and your body is rested, you are able to think more clearly, act more wisely, and respond more effectively the next day. As you begin to release today's problems, you will notice a shift within you. The tension in your body begins to ease. Your breathing becomes slower. Your thoughts lose their urgency. What once felt overwhelming begins to feel more distant. It is not that the problems disappear, but they no longer feel like they are pressing on you in this moment. There is also a sense of closure that comes with this practice. You are not leaving things unfinished in a careless way. You are simply placing them in the right time. Today has its place, and tomorrow will have its own. By releasing what belongs to today, you are allowing yourself to fully enter the present moment of rest. This practice also brings emotional relief. Many of the feelings you carry, frustration, disappointment, worry, are tied to the events of the day. When you hold on to those events, you continue to carry the emotions with them. But when you release the events, the emotions begin to soften as well. Your heart feels lighter because it is no longer holding on to everything at once. Over time, this becomes a habit. Each night, you begin to close your day with intention. You do not carry everything forward. You allow yourself to pause, to breathe, and to let go. And as this habit grows, you begin to experience nights differently. They are no longer filled with endless thinking and restlessness. They become moments of calm transition where you move from activity into rest with ease. You also begin to understand something important. Life is not meant to be carried all at once. It unfolds in moments, in days, in seasons, and each day has its own weight. By releasing today's problems, you are respecting that rhythm. You are allowing yourself to live within your limits. rather than trying to carry everything beyond what you can handle. And as you continue this practice, night after night, something changes deep within you. The need to hold on begins to weaken. The ability to let go becomes stronger. Your mind learns that it does not need to stay active to keep things in control. Your heart learns that it is safe to rest without carrying everything forward. And slowly, gently, you begin to enter sleep, not with a mind full of problems, but with a sense of quiet release, as if everything you carried has been placed down for a while, allowing you to rest more deeply, more peacefully, and more freely within that space of calm surrender. There is a kind of peace that goes beyond what the mind can understand. It is not the kind of peace that comes from having everything figured out, nor does it depend on your circumstances being perfect. In fact, it often appears in moments when nothing around you has changed, yet something deep within you begins to feel calm. This is the peace that goes beyond understanding. A quiet, steady presence that settles your heart even when your mind still has questions. Most of the time, the human mind looks for logical reasons to feel at peace. It wants clarity, solutions, and certainty. It tells you that once everything is resolved, then you can finally relax. But life does not always work that way. There are moments when answers are delayed, when situations remain uncertain, and when outcomes are still unknown. If your peace depends on these things, then your peace will always feel distant, always just out of reach. This is why this deeper kind of peace is so powerful. It does not wait for everything to make sense. It does not require every problem to be solved. It enters even in the middle of uncertainty. It calms your heart without needing to explain everything to your mind. And when you begin to experience it, you realize that peace is not something you achieve through control, but something you receive when you let go. At night, this becomes especially meaningful. Your mind may still be active. Thoughts may still come. Questions may still exist. But instead of being overwhelmed by them, you begin to feel a gentle calmness underneath them. It is as if your thoughts are no longer in control. They are still present, but they do not carry the same weight. They do not create the same pressure. Something deeper within you is now stronger than the noise of your mind.